very rich this morning. You guys really got the sound together. It sounds awesome.
Because I took another hour to do it this morning.
All right, that's what we appreciate. Yay, Chad. Thank you, Chad. Very good. So we're going to actually do our meditation before our speaker this morning. Yes, life has variety, even at Unity of Calgary. So let us get comfortable. As you know, it is our tradition and our way to go into meditation is to sing together. And this morning it is I Surrender, so we'll go into that and then we'll lead right into the guided meditation from there. I surrender. I trust and I know. Deep breath in, slowly out. Let us take that journey. Let's take a few moments to fall into the arms of love. Allowing, releasing, receiving. They're all parts of that journey. So imagine, if you will, that your feet could sink down through the earth, bringing your awareness there as they're moving down through the floor and into Mother Earth. And as this happens, that all the busyness of your life, all the worry, the thoughts of limitation, disappointment, frustration, or maybe even a little hopelessness, whatever is there, whatever is part of being a human being today, imagine just for this time you could surrender it down into the earth, letting it go. And taking another deep breath in as you draw all the strength, all the nurturing, all the richness of spring, of the new growth season. Imagine that we could tap into that. What if you could draw all the rich growth nutrients from the earth right up into your legs and journeying up right to the base of your spine? Feel the strength and simplicity of that. For you are a precious child. of this planet. You belong here. You grow here, just like everything else. And feeling that connection, and settling into it. Breathing easy. That's it. And now bringing your awareness to above your head. Imagine, if you will, a brilliant white light. Knowing that this light is a healing light. And it brings with it a deep sense of well-being, of rejuvenation, vitality. For it is the source of this love, of this light, of this peace. And knowing now that as we open to it, we can refresh and revitalize our own light. It's as though it comes in and ignites the light within us. So allow that light to come down over the head, and gently down over the shoulders. Imagine that today you allow in more you ever have before. Letting it come down and wrap around you like a cloak of comfort. Allowing you to truly surrender into these arms of love. Letting it reach in and touch your very heart. And sensing how your heart radiates back out. There's this lovely flow of in and out as we give and receive, not only in this moment but in our lives. For there is great joy in giving. It's as though your heart gets to do what it's designed to do. And trusting this flow of give and take. Taking a moment to reflect on where you could receive a little more. Where could you be open? Where could you allow yourself to be more nurtured? And where could you give a little more? Not because you have to, but because you're just getting out of the way of the resistance of it. It's not a doing, it's a being. This in, practicing it, knowing it, loving it, feeling it. We're so thankful for this time together. Strengthen all our capacities. Nice. How lovely it is to share a meditation together, is it not? Thank you. And our talk this morning is from Reverend Doug Craig, who is a beloved member of our community. Each month he comes and shares his wisdom, his insights on the journey. We're always thankful for what he has to share, and today, I have to laugh because to me, Reverend Doug is a lovely blend of the sacred and the irreverent. I think he keeps that balance, you know. We really need to keep our humanness alive and well and accepted, and I just love it. And so I don't know how many of you know the title, but today's title is Getting My Bloated Nothingness Out of My Way. Please welcome Reverend Doug Craig.
I was just wondering if that was a new word. I hadn't heard that one before. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody this morning?
Very well indeed.
Good. You're probably wondering what that is. That's not one of my quotes, by the way, getting your bloated nothingness out of the way. That is,
Christine, I just want to make sure we're recording your beautiful voice.
Good. It comes from a great book by one of the foremost philosophers of our time and age, a gentleman by the name of Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he wrote, "Let us acquiesce. Let us take our bloated nothingness out of the path of the divine circuits. Let us unlearn our wisdom of the world. Let us lie low in the Lord's power and learn that truth alone makes rich and great." So that's what he's referring here to, in a nutshell, is our ability to manage our ego. And we've all known about the ego. Everybody gets it. I like to get rid of my ego because it causes me all the problems. Convenient scapegoat. I've used it myself too. If it wasn't for my ego, I wouldn't have been in this mess. Right? So unfortunately, you can't get rid of something that you are. Try as we can. So what we must do if we want to progress in an orderly, smooth fashion is learn to understand the nature of our ego and how to integrate it and how to take away the negative impact. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is one of the greatest gifts that we have is our ability to let go of the wrong kind of thinking. Okay, so I know we all know about letting go because that's the theme, and we've talked a lot about forgiveness and all that. I'm going to give you a few little twists that are different today on managing oneself and letting go of that which becomes an encumbrance within us. And it's not something that happened, okay? Because we all know stuff that happened that we got to let go. A lot of this is stuff that is going to happen, and it's how we process it. So the first thing is we need to become more aware of our self-thinking and our self-talk, especially when we're interacting with the world around us. Because it is so easy to come up quick and look at something and condemn it, or criticize, or blame. and get into all sorts of judgment of self and others. So the fine line here is to go back to the words that Jesus said in Luke chapter 23, verse 34, when they put him on the cross and began the crucifixion between the two bandits. Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Okay? So it wasn't something that was in the past. It's not like when Peter come to him and says, "Well, how many times shall I forgive? 7?" And Jesus said 7 times 70. That's a different type of forgiveness. This is things that are happening when they're happening to you and you're processing things within inside yourself with respect to anybody or anything out there, and more importantly, with respect to self. Because we do a lot of self-condemnation and self-criticizing and self-blaming, right? Yeah. So what we want to do is stop that before it becomes a problem. So when somebody's doing things, look at them differently. Don't look at them as all those other adjectives to describe an obnoxious, ignorant person. And, we can go on that. Don't look at them like that, because you're only fueling the negativity within inside yourself. Look at them from another way. What Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Because people that know what they are doing do not do those kind of things, because they know that if you plant corn, you get corn. We know that. Okay? Right. So they need to be looked on with a sense of compassion. Hard to get there, folks. Because they don't know what they're doing to themselves by being that way. Because it's sowing and reaping. And I've come a long way with that, because, I didn't do very well in interactions and stuff like that. And of course, Anna's been training me rigorously. So she took me for a training session, a couple of them, when we were down in Nolans. If you ever need training to see how you're doing, it is an excellent place. Because you get the finest and best of Southern hospitality, and you get the finest and best of all that stuff that you don't want in your face, whether you like it or not. So it's really interesting how one navigates through there, especially if you have my intense kind of personality, which really likes to strike up a conversation sometimes. So Anna takes me there, she's coaching me there, and I'm doing really good. You gotta ask, I did better this time than any time. And I almost lost it. Well, I did go a bit over the edge when I got hit on by a street guy one day. And he's about 5 years younger than me, and he's there with his sign, "Hungry." And they go, "Hey, you need money for food." Well, he's got a pot belly. He's smoking, he's got a Mickey of liquor there that's partially full, and a full can of beer. Okay, yes, Anna's training me, so just ignore it. And I couldn't do it on the way back, though. I just couldn't do it. And so I made some comments. And, that went over about, he said a whole lot of different things, and none of them I can repeat. And I never said anything, because Anna's working on me, training. Doug now? Doug? Yeah, okay, Anna. But I did manage to wave at him. I should have waved the rest of my fingers, but I didn't. He just went into a tirade. So I waved again, and he tiraded again. And I walked away, And it was pretty good, because I usually don't do that well. But I'm in training. I've been working at it. Actually, I was just talking to Susan before. The second Sunday of January coming up will be 40 years since I went into the church the first time. So this year, I'm getting to live a whole bunch of stuff called BC. It's before church. Because this was the year 40 years ago when everything hit the fan and some of the things that you never thought of could hit fans did. Okay, so my way, that was everything. I mean, the whole works. It was really bad. And it was really those events, that one in particular, which happened just 40 years ago and a month ago, so I'm still working on it, that happened, that made me honestly look at the situation and say, choice one, stay here, fulfill what is required to do by the ethics on the street. So that means I have to eliminate somebody, and maybe go to jail or something like that, or die of a drug overdose or gang violence, or am I going to choose life and look at those 3 little girls and decide that they need a father, and they don't need one to tell them what they do, and they don't need one in jail to come and visit, and they don't need one dead. What they need is one that can not tell them what to do, but show them what to do. Because I'm not good at telling people what to do. Anybody ever do anything somebody told you what to do? I'm not good at being told what to do. So I have a tendency not to do that with people. So that day I chose to go this way. Thank God. And that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing today because of that. So it was a very, very stark decision. There was no in between. It was either you do this or you do that. And so over these years and everything, one of the most important things that I had to learn was to let go of 17 years from 14 to 30 of how I conducted my life, because that didn't work. And I'm not talking about a little change. I'm talking almost everything. How we interacted with people. I had no comprehension of discussion and compromise and win-win solutions. It was I win, you take whatever's left. However it is, didn't matter. And you know, if people didn't agree to that point, then we worked on them a bit so that they did. Just like we work on each other now, but only we work on a different way to get somebody to see what they need to do to be better for themselves. Same stuff, just a little bit different in technique and outcomes. So you gotta let go of a lot of stuff over the journey, okay? And one of the things that we need to do to keep current moving forward is to let go of that instant condemnation, criticism, judgment of anybody in particular self. In particular, if you can't do other people or things and you can't get it there in the traffic, you know, when they cut you off, you're doing so good and you're right on, somebody cuts you off and then whoosh, you wing up. Anybody ever do that?
Yeah.
Someday I'll tell you the story about my road rage and how bad it was and what I had to do and how far I've come. It doesn't even bother me anymore. I just go, bless them, Father, for they know not what they do. I know what I'm doing. I don't want any part of that because it sucks you into the abyss. So one of the other things that's really, really important, where we get into all kinds of trouble on our life, is things that are going to happen. So I got an appointment this afternoon with the family. The family doesn't show up. Well, if they'd known all the preparation they got, how important it was to be blah, blah. Does anybody ever do that? It is one of the worst things that we can do to ourselves, because we get all whipped into a lather and a frenzy over something that hasn't happened or isn't going to happen, that we wanted to happen, and it doesn't matter, except we make it matter. Rule. And you can ask Anna. We work this all the time. 24/7, 365, we have the 3 no's. No justifying, no blaming, and here's the big one that one wants to work with. if you want peace, if you don't want it, don't do it. No, none, zero attachments to outcomes. Case closed. You can have expectations, and an expectation is different, but watch. How do I know? If you've got an expectation and it doesn't work out, then, that's okay, but there's something more going to happen good for me, and we'll see again. Attachments, when you got a little to it. Well, not like that bad, but just a bit, or huge. And when you're dealing with the weird family I got with the exes and children from different families and all of that, grandchildren, you can't be that way. If I was attached to outcomes, I'd drive myself crazy. And Hannah too. And anybody else that was hanging around. Okay? That is the greatest gift you could give yourself of getting your bloated nothingness out of the way. Because if you're working and you want to keep the divine circuits clear, know that it just wasn't meant to be so. That's it. Doesn't matter whether you want it or not. Because in my life, since I've been walking that, I can tell you, and we work it. This isn't something we just talked about every now and again. This is a daily thing. We talk sometimes on different things that are going on to make sure we're like that. And the thing that you get to step into is peace, prosperity, fulfillment, and happiness. Because there's expectations that life is going to be good. It don't matter what it is that I figured out was good for me. There was always something way better than I ever thought of. I never thought about being Santa. Or the preacher. Or the professor. Who would think of doing something like that if you're in the gang business? You don't think that way. But when you turn that over and you move beyond and you're willing to let go of that stuff that you're hanging on to and open up the possibility, then the greatest gift is the Spirit gives one opportunities to use and express their talent in ways that enriches the people they're sharing with and enriches themselves. So I do this fairly well, but don't ask me to fix anything. Because I could get it apart, but not back together. Anna does all that. She's in charge. She knows who to get that stuff. I don't do it because she'll tell you it's just not Doug proof. So, and it's really, I'm not exaggerating. And then it's time to go out in the barnyard. Moo! And that means that we gotta let go of those sacred cows. Those things that we're hanging on to. Where they come from, sometimes we don't know. But hang on to them because, we just need to be right about that. Or the other way is, you can look at it like, don't drag dead dogs down the street. Dead dogs stink. Bury them. But no, some people like to take the dog down the street till their bones are bleached white and they still drag it around. Know what I mean? We got to learn to let that stuff go, and those sacred cows are so subtle, when I was growing up. And you got to watch it, because if you don't deal with it, it will be dealing with you. So I'll give you one of the ones I had when I was growing up. My dad's a hardcore Westerner, and he didn't like people from Quebec, the Frenchmen. They were this, they were that. The only reason I took the hockey team was because my dad hated them, and I had a problem with my dad because he liked Toronto. It's the only reason. But boy, I tell you, those people from French, I tell you, and so I grew up believing that. And of course, when you believe something, you always find evidence to be right. Don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, until you get on the spiritual path and God sticks it in your face and you get to be wrong. Because I found out a strange thing about people from Quebec. They're all from Quebec, so they're all French, but they're not really. And it doesn't really matter, because what happened to me is the boss I had really good, well, for Quebec. Yeah. My best buddy that I go hiking with all the time, he's from Quebec. Yeah. And my wife, she's from Quebec. Wow. And I get it all over the place from Quebec. Geeseland's from Quebec. And another one back. They're all over the place. I do work with them. And Clove area. And you know what? They made me wrong. They made me wrong about what I believed. Okay? And that's what you got to watch with these subtleties of sacred cows. We believe it, so we're right. And we don't want anybody making us wrong. Even if they're right, we're wrong, but we don't want that because we like to be right all the time. People are like, that's not true. Doug, I like to be wrong sometimes. That's right. You like to be right about being wrong. So be clear, no matter what you think. You always want to be right. So the question is, what do I want to be right about? Do I want to be right about my moo or dead dog? Or do I want to heal and see it differently? That's the choice. It's open. And you can even ask him. Oh, and Chris, too. Yeah, he's another one. Another buddy that's right there. Yeah. God, they're all over the place. You can't get away from them. Right? Do you see, with the people I just mentioned here, never mind the other ones, how much my life could have been limited just by hanging on to one single, simple, sacred cow? It's immense. It's huge. And to realize that I don't have space in my head to rent to anybody that's negative. I don't have that space. Okay? So we got to watch that. There was a gentleman by the name of Henley, and I'm going to close with this, who wrote a poem called Invictus. Has anybody ever heard the term Invictus? I'll guarantee you all know the last two lines, because everybody knows the last two lines, but it's very powerful how and why he wrote it. So Henley was 16 years old, and his left leg required amputation due to complications arising from tuberculosis. And in the early 1870s, after seeking treatment for the problem with his other leg, he was told that it would require a similar procedure and would have to be amputated, but he decided no. So he went off to a different hospital and consulted with a different guy who went through a number of different interventions and surgeries, but ultimately saved his leg. So while he was in the hospital, the last time going through this process, he wrote the verses to this, and he called it Invictus. So just remember where his head was at when he wrote this. And Invictus is actually it's not a title, it's a word in the English language. And what the word means is unconquered and undefeated. Got it? That's what we're going for about getting the bloated nothingness out of the way, because we could focus in there and be unconquered and undefeated by the folly of our own thinking. And he says, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell of clutch of circumstances, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So as I declare this and accept this unconditionally for myself, I do so for each and every one, knowing that as we take the courage to accept ourselves unconditionally and be of good custodians about how we approach life, we too are unconquerable and undefeated and shall rejoice in whatever it is we do. I know it, I accept it, I give thanks for it, and so it is.
This next song is going to feature a conga solo from Doug. And there it was. Thank you, Doug, for all the work you put in. The heart
On
and
the
soul. Oh my goodness. I feel like a 9-year-old girl at a sleepover. I feel like it's really giggly and just so tired they can't even. That's how I feel. So tired.
He told me earlier he really needs sleep.
I got past the exhausted. We entered into the energy of laughter. I should do a funny song instead. I have a song called You're Gonna Die. You want to hear that one? It's a funny song. I did write a song called Katie's getting anxious.
No, I was going to say we should say your laughter becomes our laughter.
There you go.
Instead of my voice becomes your voice.
I have heard it said, get there, only to go. I have heard it said, I'm the one who's in control. And if I just try hard enough, oh, then one day I'll be at my best. And then everything I want so much surely manifests.
I just let go and let it flow, oh, then right now here I can rest. And then things I never dreamed could be surely manifest. Oh, behold, the mystery is there. So I lay down my will, and I offer up my joy. I surrender all I have, and your voice becomes my voice. I surrender all I am, and your voice becomes my voice.
Beautiful. Great. And thank you, Reverend Doug. I didn't realize that was an Emerson saying, that bloated nothingness thing. I'm kind of an Emerson fan, so. It's always a journey, isn't it? Very good. Very good. And thank you for the music. I was thinking the band sounded really grand this morning, didn't they?